Painting a color camouflage for your scale model can be challenging work, especially if you don't know which steps you should follow. I've been modeling for more than 15 years now, and my first camouflage results didn't go as planned. But now I've been using this strategy for painting my latest camouflage colors, and results are much better. In this video I will be painting a 2-color camouflage from start to finish. I will show you how to deal with color variation and how to get a realistic and embedded result. This is Notjustpanzer and welcome to my channel. So the first step of the strategy will be base coating, and before applying the olive drab paint, it's time to begin priming. Anytime you apply a primer coat, you should go for a durable and hard primer. In my case, I use for most of times the Vallejo primer, which works really nice for plastic surfaces, but also, like in this model, it works really well for metal parts. But wait, I almost forget it. During the last weeks, I built and prepared this Sherman 1/48 scale from Tamiya. Nothing fancy, just a pretty straightforward assembly except for the cast texturing in the armor and some minor adjustments in the sponsons area. Prior to apply any coat of paint, I always spend some time cleaning the model. In this case, I use some common alcohol for cleaning the surface, also removing dust particles and fingerprint grease. Getting back to the priming step, for sealing the running gear and track pieces, I like to use a dark primer color. You will see why in a moment. One of the nicest colors for representing olive drab out of the bottle is Tamiya XF62. This color shade is very accurate, and the good thing about it is that you don't need to use any other color mix. Obviously, Tamiya colors work great for airbrushing. In this first base color application, I tried to cover the entire model with no exception. Although Tamiya paint can cover the model surface at once, I applied 2 coats of paint to ensure a solid finish. Now the black primed running gear parts receive a coat of olive drab, but this time just applied specifically over the suspension bogies. When I apply a color camouflage, I prefer to keep things simple. I will apply only one highlighting coat, using the same color as before, but adding now a few drops of flesh tone and a speck of yellow-green. Starting post shading the model now, I apply the paint depending on each part of the model. Armor sides and vertical plates were post shaded applying vertical strokes. I focus on small parts, such as the cure hatches, where I like to increase the contrast, so they can stand out a little bit more. For flatter surfaces, I like to apply the paint in a cloudy random pattern. Applying the paint following different rules makes the model to feel more natural. At the same time, it becomes easier to identify each separate part. Check now how using just one color, I created some tone transitions. This lighter color has a wider color difference with the base. Also, the post shading method makes the model to feel more three-dimensional and faded. Well, now it's time for the fun part, painting the camouflage. As always, it's useful to take some camouflage references to know where to place each color. This time I will paint this fill applied camouflage pattern as shown in the kit instructions. To be more precise when airbrushing, I like to remove the front cap of the airbrush. You need to be extremely careful working in this way, cause you can easily damage the tip of the needle. For this second color, I will be using a sandy khaki tone, made with a 50% mix between khaki and desert yellow, following the instruction color and using a more diluted paint this time. First, I mark the edges of the camouflage, applying a few airbrush passes to ensure a solid covering. Next step should be easier, filling the space in between with more color. This, again, should be applied carefully, as we don't want to paint outside of the edges. This type of soft edge camouflage requires a little practice to get good results, but you don't need to invest a few hours for masking completely the model and just apply one color, like a hard edge camouflage. In this particular scheme, process was very easy. The shapes I had to draw were very soft, so I didn't have to invest so much time trying to replicate the pattern shape in every area. Also, because this is a fill applied camouflage, there is some room for personal interpretation. Maybe some of you have noticed, but for this project I'm using a different airbrush. Last month I was contacted by Ergo Europe. This company produces Fengda airbrushing products, and they sent me this new airbrush and compressor set. This small compressor is very portable. I had some doubts about its performance, especially for long painting sessions, but after spending 3 consecutive hours of painting, it didn't overheat. Noise it produces is similar to my air tank compressor. and I didn't have to care about vibrations in my workbench, considering that I used it on top of it. This compressor does not show the air pressure levels, you just have to use this pressure switch to adjust the airflow. The included airbrush is a model with a 0.2mm needle. This allows me to get sharper details that with my standard 0.3mm needle I used to paint with. Also, the small size cap surprised me because I didn't need to refill it with more paint, but I could paint comfortably this camouflage. In my opinion, this is a good combo for people who look for a budget airbrushing set. Also, for more experienced modelers, you can use it as a secondary gear and lighter compressor to take to events, seminars, and so on. Finally, when the camouflage was painted, I added the same color I used for highlighting the olive drop to paint some more lighter shades in the khaki sand color. This was no coincidence, as I chose on purpose this common tone for both colors to keep a color coherence when post shading. Although the camouflage is far from calling it finished, check the post shading result and how it was applied in each different area. In this model I added a few drops of clear varnish, so now, because the model already has a semi-gloss finish, I set the decals, as always following the same procedure and using dedicated decal products to adapt the decal properly to the surface. Last step for decals was to apply a gloss varnish coat on top of the white stars. It's important to set decals at this moment, because next steps will blend all the elements together. Once the camouflage colors have been painted, it's time to add some common shadows and definition. For this second main step, I mixed these two colors, creating a dark round tone. Now, working with the paint heavily diluted to a 90%, I started painting all the panel lines. Applying this dark color over the recesses improves the surface detail and depth of the model. Also, because I'm applying a new darker color layer over the green and khaki areas, it brings both colors back to the same level, integrating the two colors. Working with a heavily diluted paint makes the process safer. I mean, obviously, diluted paint it's easier to control, but also, if you make a mistake, it will be harder to notice. This process feels very pleasant when you apply it, cause you can see in live how model details and shapes get deeper, enhancing the general shape. The turret is an ideal place for this technique. All the small parts, vision ports, bolts and hatches stand out really fast when post shaded. Finally, I also created a basic sketch for some grime and stains weathering, applying this dark color over the areas where fuel is supposed to spill on both sides of the vehicle and also on the top of the engine deck. Now the model has decals set and it's completely post shaded, the result is much better now. Everything is coming together, but there is still one step remaining. In order to fully blend the two colors and the white star decals, I will be applying a color filter. But first, as I want to ensure an accurate color filter covering, I hit the model with a satin varnish. It wouldn't be a good idea to apply a color filter on top of a glossy coat, as the resulting effect will be uneven. My goal now is to prepare a transparent neutral color that once applied, it perfectly blends the whole model. This new coat shouldn't be visible at all, but will hold all the elements together, making them more natural and pleasant to the eye. As I was struggling with time, I decided to use acrylic paints for the color filter. Using 3 drops of Russian uniform and 1 drop of Japanese uniform color, mixed with a big amount of water, I prepared a yellowish green tone. Make sure the color is transparent enough and keep in mind that it's better to apply 2 thin coats instead of once. The best tool for applying a color filter is to use a big brush. This time I will be using this flat brush because it helps me to cover bigger surfaces at once, and also it's very useful for flat areas. As I said before, when you apply a color filter, you could barely see it. You should still not worry because the effect is working. In this step, I care about distributing the paint and pushing the color out of the recesses. Finally, when the first filter coat was dry, I applied the second and last coat, leaving the model prepared for weathering. So, this is the final result. When painting a camouflage, we have fun steps like choosing the colors or representing camouflage patterns. But if you're looking for a realistic result, it's key to get a well-defined model. At the same time, we keep all the colors joined with some common elements. Next time you paint a camouflage, you should give a try to this strategy of 3 simple steps, and you will see how the result becomes more natural and even more realistic. For those of you interested about this Sherman, this particular model will appear only in this video. as I won't be able to record the weathering steps. I prepared this model for a weekend seminar. From February 7th to the 9th, it will take place the Clinic Modelista 2025. This event, held in Almería, Spain, consisted in a full modeling weekend where you can attend a specific scale model seminar, and in my case, I'm willing to participate. There is a wide variety of seminars from armor weathering to dioramas or even figure painting. I'll leave you the link to their website if you want to check the event. So if you like this video and want to know more about how to continue with your model, click in this video because I'm pretty sure you will find super helpful content inside. As always, I hope you found this video useful or at least interesting. So thanks for watching and I see you in the next one.